So today we are doing Adhyay 18, as you know. Shlok 16 and 17 are the shlokas for today. So let me start chanting. Tatraivam sati kartaram atmanam kevalam tu yaha pashyatya kritabuddhitvan na sapashyati durmatihi. Shlok 16. Notwithstanding this, however, he who, having an impure mind, regards the absolute taintless self alone as the doer, that man of perverse understanding does not view right. So before we start with this commentary on this shloka, let's recap a little bit of the previous 13, 14, and 15 shlokas and because this shloka is a conclusion of the earlier shlokas. So what did we discuss last time? One, actions are performed at 3 levels. Normally, we always assume an action is something that we do with our hands or our legs or our body. But in Vedanta, we understand actions are performed by the body, physical body, but also by speech and also in the mind. So words are also considered actions. Thoughts are also considered actions. And all these actions at all these 3 levels will incur karma unless they are performed in the right way. The second thing we learned is that actions have 5 components. There are 5 factors which go together to make an action. And this is true for actions which are prohibited as well as actions which are prescribed. This is all that we did last time, but I wanted to revise it a little bit before we start the next shloka. And this kind of understanding, Bhagwan says, is given to us by Kapil Muni in Sankhya philosophy. So what are the 5 components of an action? We did it last time. Adhishthanam, the body itself. Karta, the sense of doership, or you can say ego or ahankar. Karanam, the organs of perception, man and buddhi. Then pritak cheshta, cheshta meaning effort. So all the things that go towards making an effort to do an action. And that includes the 5 pranas as well as the organs of action. And then Daivam, the presiding deity for each of our organs. All these 5 factors together are responsible for an action to happen. From this, we can conclude that none of these 5 factors mentions the self as a component of an action. So the self or Atma does not figure in the 5 parts of action. Therefore, we can conclude the self is not the doer of actions, right? So what is the self doing? The self is only witnessing these 5 factors which are responsible for all actions at all 3 levels: physical, speech, and mind. So, in other words, action belongs to the realm of Prakriti, matter. And actions only happen in matter. Now, how is this matter able to do the actions? It can only do actions in the presence of the self, in the presence of Atma, or in the presence of Purush. So Prakriti is considered matter, Purush is considered as consciousness, Atma, self, and this matter can only do actions in the presence of consciousness. So this was the background that we did last time in 13, 14, and 15. So now 16 and 17 are 2 shlokas which are just concluding this understanding of Sankhya Yoga. Now the shloka starts with the word notwithstanding this, meaning all what I've said just now is a fact according to Sankhya philosophy. But even after knowing these facts, there is a misunderstanding of who is actually doing the action. Because we always say, I am doing, I am sleeping, I am talking, I am walking, I am reading, I am sleeping. So, who is it? I means actually my true self, Purush. But Purush is not doing any action. Prakriti is doing the action. So, what is the job of the spiritual seeker? What is our job? It is to learn how to make out the difference between the equipments of action, Prakriti, matter, and the actionless self. So we have two things here. One is Prakriti, matter, and with this matter, there are equipments of action, which are the 5 factors responsible for actions. And then there is Purush or consciousness or Atma or self, who is not at all doing any action. So we call it actionless self. But without the presence of this actionless self, action cannot happen. So what we need to do as seekers is make out the difference between this Prakriti and this Purush. And this is actually, it seems like, oh, that's all we have to do. Yeah, that's all we have to do. But it is difficult. And what makes it difficult needs to be understood. Now, when this actionless self, Purush, comes into close contact with the equipments of action, matter, then, and when does it happen? When you take birth. When you take birth, the actionless self comes into close contact with the equipments of action. Purush and Prakriti come into close contact. Then some new thing gets born or appears to get born. And we can call that new thing an illusory, egocentric, limited self. Egocentric because it takes on the I-ness, that gives the doership, the I concept, and it is limited. It is not Atma, which is limitless. It's a new entity which is born. We call that ego, or you can call it Jivatma. So this Jivatma, which is illusory actually, and it is limited, and it is egocentric. So what it does, it claims, I am the doer of everything. I am the doer. So we have to become aware. What is this egocentric Jivatma? And why is it taking ownership of all our actions? And that is what is making us have this illusion that Atma is the one that is doing everything. So Bhagavan says that the spiritually immature person, or you can say the unenlightened person, or the person who has not yet got the deep insight into the difference between Purush and Prakriti, what will happen? He will keep thinking that I, the self, is doing all the actions. And this is because his buddhi or his intellect has not yet been made crystal clear to be able to see that the Atma is not doing anything. He has not yet understood the truth. And that is the reason why Bhagwan calls him in this shloka, see the last word, Durmatihi, perverted intellect. He says this is a perverted intellect. What does it mean, perverted intellect? It means that this intellect, this buddhi, has not been purified of what? Of all the sins, of all the avguns, of all previous lifetimes. And because of that, because the buddhi does not get purified, clarified, he goes on experiencing repeated death and repeated birth and never gets out of this cycle of life and death, which means he never attains eternal bliss, which is obviously the goal or the destination that all spiritual seekers would like to attain. So, how does this misunderstanding happen? We call it adhyas. If you remember, we have studied it. The actions of Prakriti or matter are superimposed on the Purush or the self. There's one more word here, akrit buddhitvat. Akrit buddhitvat means the intellect has not yet been trained. Now, to be able to recognize the difference between Purush and Prakriti, we need the faculty of discrimination. This faculty of discrimination lies in the buddhi, and this faculty is called vivek. We all know that. So, how do we train this vivek? Obviously, through repeated shravan, hearing of the truth, hearing of this understanding through satsangs, through books, etc. Then doing manan on this truth. Then slowly, this untrained intellect, which thinks I am doing all the actions, will slowly understand that it is I am not the intellect, I am not the body, I am the Atma who absolutely does nothing. Now, what is the danger in not understanding this? See, if you keep doing actions and owning the action as your own, then what you're doing is that you are attracting the fruit of the action. And the fruit of the action sounds very nice, but what it actually means is karma. And when you are incurring karma, you have to be reborn repeatedly till that karma is delivered to you. And an action is never over till the karma is delivered. Therefore, this karma will not be delivered in one lifetime. It can come after many lifetimes. So till that karma comes, you have to keep repeatedly getting born and repeatedly dying. So what is that karma? And last time we learned, 2 Thursdays back, we learned this karma is not always a pleasant thing. So it's a mixed bag. So sometimes it is pleasant, sometimes it is unpleasant, and sometimes it's a mixed bag of pleasant and unpleasant. We have learned it as Anishtam, Ishtam, and Mishra. Now, who wants to bear with all these karmas? Therefore, one needs to understand this basic concept of the 5 factors of action and the Purush, who is only the witness of these actions. And I, the real I, is not Prakriti, the real I is Purush. So, logically, we can understand this also. Logically, if you are doing an action, see, I'm doing an action right now. And action means it has to involve movement. If there is no movement, there is no action. Even a word, there is a movement involved. Even in a thought, there is a movement involved. A vritti has to rise, and there is stuff going on in the head for that thought to happen. So all actions involve movement. Movement means some change is happening, right? Change. My hand moved from here to here, changed. My words came from inside out, there was a change. My thoughts rose into my head, that's a change. But in Atma, there is no movement. In Atma, there is no change because Atma is eternal. It is existence itself. How can there be change? How can there be movement? It is everywhere. There is no place for it to go from place A to place B. Therefore, Atma is not involved in any action because there can be no movement and there can be no change in existence. So, Bhagavan is saying, try to understand Atmanam Kevalam. See the word over there? Atmanam Kevalam. What is the truth that we need to understand? The self is absolute. The self is unattached. The self is one, Kevalam. non-dual. The self is unchangeable. The self is eternal. It cannot be an action involving movement and change. What does the Atma do? It witnesses the equipments, bodily equipments, the equipments of action. It witnesses these equipments doing the action, but it does not do any actions itself, right? And what is its nature? Existence, knowledge, bliss.
नौकरी भी मिले ना मम्मी,
It illumines
नौकरी भी मिले ना.
all the creation. Okay. And why are we confused with equipments and Purush? Because of adhyas or superimposition. So now what as seekers? How will we train ourselves to see this difference between Purush and Prakriti? We have to develop our Vivek. How to develop Vivek? Go to the Shat Sampattis. Shat Sampattis are what? Shama, Dama, Uparama, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhan. We have already discussed these at length. Practice Karma Yoga, that purifies the intellect. Practice Upasana, it gives you Ekagrata. And then do Vichar, self-inquiry on these beautiful teachings. And all these beautiful shlokas will actually become your own knowledge. That is what we are trying to reach. Now, I want to draw your attention to the earlier Adhyay, number 5. If you have your books, you can open chapter 5, verse 8 and 9, and we will read that, the English one together. So it kind of reinforces what we have just discussed. It says, however, the Sankhya Yogi who knows the reality of things must believe that he does nothing, even though seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, drinking, walking, sleeping, breathing, speaking, answering the calls of nature, grasping, opening, closing eyes, all these actions he is doing. Holding means believing that it is the senses alone that are moving among their objects. This is what we have to reach the conclusion in our own minds as a Sankhya yogi. Now, as I said, these 2 shlokas today are the conclusion of all the last week's shlokas. So let's see the next shloka. Bhagwan is just emphasizing this point. Instead of giving what we have misunderstood, he's giving what we have understood from the point of view of the realized master. Let's read that. Yasya naham krito bhavo buddhiryasya na lipyate hatvapi sa imam lokan nahanti na nibadhyate. Realized master, he whose mind is free from the sense of doership and whose reason is not affected by worldly objects and activities, does not really kill, even after having killed all these people, nor does any sin accrue to him. Bhagwan is describing the state of a realized master. Let us see the
लेटो जहाँ हम सुबह ला के लेते हैं ना.
Can the Zoom
पढ़िया मोई 28 साल जीती.
Okay, I did the muting. All right. What would be the lakshans of a realized master? 1. Yasya naham krito bhavo. The realized master has renounced all notions of doership or ahankar. If you see the word ahankar, it is made up of aham and kar. Aham, I, kar, do, I do. The ahankar keeps saying, I do. The eyes see, but ahankar says, I see. The ears hear, ahankar says, I hear. And this ahankar is nothing different from the illusory, egocentric, limited self, which is born when Purush and Prakriti come into close contact with each other. Jeev Atma, right? Now he has understood the difference, Purush and Prakriti. Therefore, he says, I am the Purush. So I have not done any action. These equipments of action are doing the action. Therefore, I do not get the fruit of the action. Let the fruit of the action go to the equipments of action. Second, he has worked out all his sins. Means he has exhausted the karmas, he has exhausted all the avguns from his previous lifetimes. Only his prarabdha, with which he was born in this lifetime, will remain. 3, he has freed himself of all bodily attachments. And he is experiencing freedom now, freedom of body, freedom of mind. So what is binding us? As you know, we are born with 3 gunas, right? So tamas, rajas, and sattva. We need to rise above the tamas, rajas, and even rise above sattva. 3 guna mukta we need to be, right? Now, if you see, apparently in Sanskrit, the word guna also means rope. These gunas are like ropes. They are binding us to sansar. They are attaching us to sansar. They are in our body, mind, everywhere. So, if you say he's freed himself of bodily attachments, means he's freed himself of all the 3 gunas and remains purely sattvic till the body remains. For the body to remain, you need the minimum amount of tamas, minimum amount of rajas, and maximum amount of sattva. Then fourth, the realized master has the ability to witness all situations, witness all actions, and do nothing about it, even while the equipments of action are participating in all worldly actions. He doesn't have to sit in a cave on top of a mountain doing nothing. He can be actively, dynamically active in the world and yet witness the body being dynamically active. Then all objects, vishais of the world, no attachment. He has renounced all attachments. And to renounce all attachments, what has to disappear? Vasanas. So all vasanas also have dissolved. Attachments to vishais have also dissolved. Now don't forget, where is this Updesh being delivered? In the battlefield. By who? Bhagwan Krishna. To who? Arjun. Why? Because Arjun is in a dilemma whether he should go ahead and kill his family and friends. So Bhagwan says, Hatva pisa imam lokan na hanti na nibadhyate. Do all actions like a realized master. Even after killing all these people, you will not really be killing, because no sin will accrue to you. Why? Because you will be doing it in karma yoga bhav, because the adharmic people have already been allotted their destiny. You are just the instrument of the divine will. So we also have to do our actions that way, and a realized master will also do his actions in that way. Even after doing something as terrible as killing, if you are doing it after being realized, you will be doing it for a dharmic purpose. You will be doing it as an instrument of the divine will. No karma will be accrued to you. So perform our actions in that way. And such a person who is able to do all these things will have definitely realized through direct experience his true identity. What is that true identity? Atma. And what is Atma? No different from Paramatma or Brahma. Such a person is called Jivan Mukta. He is liberated. He is freed even while living in the body. Okay, so this is it. We practice our karma yoga, we practice everything, and without effort, Nothing is possible. Huh? Nothing is possible. One beautiful sentence is there which describes Jivan Mukta. I'll read it. It's a quote. It says, a Jivan Mukta is like a wheel that is detached from a moving car, but continues to move by itself due to past momentum. So the Jivan Mukta is like the wheel. It continues to move, because there is a past momentum, there is a need to move, but is no longer attached to the car being bodily attachments or attachment to sansar. Therefore, Bhagavan says in this shloka, Buddhi na lipyate. His intellect will not get bound. Lipyate. It will not get tainted. It will not get bound. Right? Bhagavan is telling us this in the 18th Adhyaya. Even though he has said all this to us in Adhyaya 2. Let me remind you, Adhyaya 2, Shlok 19. The soul never kills nor is killed. So if you see yourself as soul, then you are not killing, and neither will you ever be killed. Then Bhagavan says in Shlok 20, the soul is never born, nor it ever dies, nor it becomes anything on being born. No change, no movement, no birth, no death. 21, Arjun, the man who knows this soul to be imperishable, eternal, and free from birth and decay, how and whom will he cause to be killed? How and whom will he kill? So this is the solution that Bhagavan is giving Arjun. Fight your war, knowing that you are Atma, and witness your body doing the actions. Know that you are the instrument of the divine will. And the same advice is applicable to you and me, all of us. We are also in the battlefield of life, and we have to also perform our actions, which is our dharma. But we have to perform them in such a way that we do not get caught in the bondage of karma. Do your dharma and don't get caught in the bondage of karma. Okay? So, what are you going to do in this next week? So, we know there are 5 factors of action, right? So, I want you to do a pathology test of your actions. Pathology test? You call someone, technician home, or you go to a path lab, they take your blood, and then they separate each component in the blood, they evaluate it, they find out which component is not working, which component is more, which component is less, calcium and I don't know, whatever, creatine and glucose and RBC, WBC, all those things, they separate everything out and then they examine each one separately. And then the treatment plan is made to rectify if there's any less or anything too much or anything too little, right? You have to do that for your actions. Pathology test of your actions. The 5 components are there. Examine which component is actually pushing you to do the action. Is it the sight, getting attracted by the visual of an object? Or is it your ahankar which is speaking up? Or are you too rajasic that your organs of action are pushing you to do the action? What is it? Do that evaluation. Separate it. This is called manan, vichar. And then you will understand that each action, maybe different actions, will be prompted by different components. And after you get this report of your pathology test, then what is the remedy? The remedy is the Guru's prescription of sadhana. But for that, we need to know what is the weakness, fault, defect, more, less in each of these 5 components. Do this for 1 week. Maybe you will be free from all misunderstandings of actions. Okay? Next week or next time, whenever that is, one beautiful new topic is starting, and that will also be very useful in understanding exactly Who am I? Okay. Oh. 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 Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Chidarpana. Jai Gurudev.